So now it's time to do the really exciting stuff. We're going to start writing code. So there's only so far you can go with adding interface elements to your apps, and this is about it. So if we want to actually make our apps interactive and do something, we need to write some code. So let's start doing that right now. As I mentioned a couple of videos ago, ViewController.swift is the file that we're going to be writing most of our code in. And this file, as you can see, has some default code in there already. And we're going to start by just looking and seeing what this default code does. So first of all, we've got some green code up the top there with double slashes in front of it. These are all comments. So if you want to add some comments to your code, the easiest way is to put 2 slashes in, and then this is a comment. Something like that. And then that is just there for people when they're looking at your code, or to remind yourself what you're doing in a certain bunch of code. And that's really useful, especially when you start writing big apps. You do need to add comments to keep track of what's going on as your code runs. So that's mostly ignorable, anything green. Then we've got this import UI kit statement. And all that's doing is importing another bunch of code which allows us to work with the user interface. So pretty much any Swift file that we use in our app is going to have this line at the top. Otherwise, without that, we can't work with the user interface in our code. And obviously, we almost always want to do that. We're going to see later on in the course some other frameworks that we can import in this way, but we'll do that when we get there. Now, this bit here is known as a class. We'll go into classes in a bit more detail later on. But the important thing at this stage is that this is a chunk of code that is all associated with the ViewController. So this essentially allows us to control the ViewController. And remember, the ViewController is the thing up here which contains everything that appears on the screen. So this is going to be where we put our code to interact with our app. Now, within this class, we've got 2 functions, or methods, as they're also known. The most important one for us is ViewDidload. So this method runs whenever the app loads. So any code that we put in here is going to be processed and completed as soon as the app loads. And this second function, we don't really need to worry about. It's a method that runs when we receive a memory warning. So that's useful later on when you're writing big apps that use a lot of memory, but for now we can pretty much ignore that. So let's excitingly run our first bit of code and make sure you put it in the ViewDidload method. So between these 2 curly brackets here and underneath the super.viewDidload command there, which just launches everything. So for our first line of code, we're going to display something in the logs or the console, which you'll remember is this bit down here. So we got these commands that we didn't really want, or these messages that we weren't particularly interested in, but sometimes we might want to give ourselves messages to let us know where the program is at, or just to let us know that it's running. And to do that is really simple. You just use the print command. So you type print like that, and then you put your message that you want to print in double quotes like that. So I'll go for the classic hello Rob, and that's it. That's all you need. So if you've used other programming languages, you might be used to putting semicolons at the end. You can do that if you want, but you don't need to in Swift. So I'm going to avoid doing that. So we just write print and then in brackets, and then whatever the message you want to be in double quotes, just like that. And now, if we run the app, we should see that as soon as it runs, we get hello Rob appearing down here. So keep your fingers crossed. So this is called when the splash screen has finished displaying and the app itself is displayed on the screen. And there it is. So there's our app and there is our message. So hopefully when you first managed to achieve that, you got a little jolt of excitement because that's your first bit of code that you've run on an iPhone app that's actually processed and done something. So feel free to play with that a little bit and display different messages. You can have 2 or 3 messages displaying as well if you want to. In the next video, we're going to see the rather more challenging way that we actually get the app to respond. So running some code when the app launches is all well and good, but what we really want to do is get the app to do something when the user, say, taps the submit button. And that's what we'll find out how to do in the next video.